Hey, Jim.
Hi, Steve.
So, have you found any Holy Grails lately?
You know what? Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. I fart in your general direction. And welcome once again to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast. Oh, you meant vinyl grails, didn't you, Steve?
When it comes to Monty Python, I'm always in for that. So, yeah.
Got it. Hey, my name's Jim, and I am a record store owner and a record collector.
And I'm Steve, a record collector in his brand new record room. First time ever being shown.
I'm seeing this. It's looking good, sir. So the move is completed, but the reconstruction process continues.
Yes, we are reconstructing a lot. It's like, well, where does it go? Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever put a car in the garage. And again, I don't know.
But the records seem to have come unscathed, or are you finding some dings in the boxes and stuff?
There was dings in the boxes, but I didn't see problems with the records themselves. I mean, these were stacked up pretty high. There was some that looked a little squashed. There's one that had oil on it. But I checked it. It was clean. They were good. Of course, everything's wrapped up. So,
Yeah.
I didn't see anything problems.
So when do we get to see a tour of the record room proper on the Steve Carlson Vinyl Community channel?
Yeah. I have a closet full of all the accessories that still has to come out. We got the picture. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm moving along. The rock music is all out, but now you got the country, the blues, the world, the soul, the jazz, and I have 5 cubes left.
Wow. So the record room itself is bigger than the one you've moved away
A
from,
lot bigger.
but well, that's room to expand then, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. So, my cubes are really tight. And so now you can see even behind me, I've opened them up. So just in case I decide to buy some more records, I may not, I don't know. But if I do decide to buy records, I don't have to shift everything around constantly.
The biggest question though is how does it feel to have access to them again? And you're actually spinning already too, right?
I am. I brought when we left Midland, I put my stereo system in my car so I could set it up at my son's house. So I could just start spinning the new records right away. Record store day. It was nice. It's my relaxation.
And you're getting there. So sooner, hopefully, rather than later, you'll get that. Oh, and sort of kind of the rest of the house around too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, there is. I got dining room to take care of when this is done with. So, and some stuff in the closet. So yeah, it's going to be a bit. Exactly.
Well, good luck. Again, I don't envy that task, but it looks like you're making some progress.
Yeah, we are. We are. And at least you can walk through the house. The cat is completely confused by the whole thing. This is like his fourth place now, in about a week and a half. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just, he's loud.
He's just along for the ride and asking for some of those drugs.
Well, we have people that live in the basement people.
Yep.
So yesterday they thought there was this. They heard the screaming going on up here. It's the cat. And I go tell my wife, they're going to think we're killing someone. And we finally met them, talked to them, and says, yeah, we got a cat. And you probably heard some noises. Yeah, we figure it's your grandson. No, that's the cat.
He's better behaved.
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh well. That's the way it is.
Good luck. Say hi to Patty and Kat for us, and they'll get settled in hopefully. So, hey, so being that this is a vinyl community podcast and you have records you can access again, we're going to talk about the Holy Grail stuff here in a little bit. But let's kick off as we always do, talking about some acquisitions. Now, have I did see your channel. You managed to, and I've talked with you obviously, but you managed to get some record store day stuff.
I did. Went out Sunday, and it was just quick. What do you got left? What's left?
Yep.
What's left? And I didn't take time to browse. I mean, really, I just don't have the time right now. But I did pick up. I had something coming through the mail also. So this came in through the mail, Boogie Down Productions, and it is By All Means Necessary. So, I got to get this right here. There we go. By All Means Necessary. And I never had this one, but I love Boogie Down Productions. It came with a nice little book in there, and very enjoyable. Well, yeah, isn't that great, huh? Boy, I spent a lot of money on that. Yeah, words, lots of words. But this has been good. I really have enjoyed this, and yeah, very, very good spin. You know, Chris won from Boogie Down Productions. It's all about finding peace. You know, it's not about the gangster life, and that's what I think is really cool about him. So on Record Store Day, there is Boogie Down Productions Edutainment, and yeah, that's a good one too. This one I really liked a lot. Great sounding. I don't think there's anything special in here. It's a 2-record set, and oh yeah, look at this vinyl. Isn't that pretty?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that is. Looks like it should be from Third Man Records. Yes, their colors. So we got that from Record Store Day. I did hear. This was on a lot of people's Grails list, and Gandalf, and yeah, found it. So very, very happy to have this thing. And you know, eventually I'm going to figure out how to show records on here. And this came in a nice. Vibrant,
cool. Nice green,
very vibrant. Yep. Yeah, and again, some good stuff. I mean, this is this fits into the Holy Grail, you know, as
the original would be.
Yeah, the original, exactly. Yeah. People have a huge desire for this album. It goes for a lot of money. Then I really wanted this one, Britta and I'm sorry, Dean and Britta La Ventura from Luna. So they are married, and they have put out some solo albums together. And so, yeah, very good. I never heard this. I think it was the first time on LP. So
cool.
Excited to have that. And the final one I got for Record Store Day that I wanted was the Mighty Lemon Drops. 90s
cool.
group. A little bit of shoegaze, a little bit of Britpop, probably. Just beautiful sounding. Just great music, kind of stuff I like from the 90s, kind of a little dream poppy in there. So really happy to get that. So yeah, I was successful. I didn't need a lot. And then of course you had that Wall of Voodoo that you were able to get back in. So I said, that's still there. I'll take that. So yeah,
we got a little bit of a restock on the Record Store Day stuff, which I was happy about because there was at least one thing in there that I missed out on the day of that they still had some copies. So I snagged one. Surprising that it was left, but yeah. So my additions this week, we'll start off with the Record Store Day. I did get a copy of the Rocky Horror Show, not the Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is the Rocky Horror Show, but this is the Richard O'Brien original demo tape recordings, which is actually really kind of a neat thing because this is a precursor to the stage show that Richard O'Brien put together. That was the precursor to the movie Rocky Horror Picture Show. Nothing too special on the inside. It's a black vinyl on there. But what's kind of cool about this, Steve, is that this was the audio that Richard O'Brien was using to try to land a venue in London, I believe, it might have been in London. I have to stop and think here, but he was trying to land a venue for his brainchild, the Rocky Horror Show. It was a Broadway show, a stage show rather, not Broadway, a stage show. And so the music on here is the music that we've all known and loved from the movie, but it's pretty much Richard O'Brien and a couple of background singers doing everything himself, just trying to show off what the music would sound like to the folks that he was hoping to land a venue. And the rest, as they say, is history. So it's really odd to hear him singing all the parts, you know, the stuff that you think Tim Curry would be singing, Brad and Janet and the like. But it's very cool. The audio quality is not fantastic, but they did do a little restoration on this. But again, this is 50 plus years old on these demo tapes. I do have a lot of other Rocky Horror stuff. You know, I've got the soundtrack, I've got the stage cast recording, I've got an audience participation album.
Well done.
So I do have that. So that's kind of a neat little addition to the Rocky Horror collection off to the side here.
To me, that sounds like a completist type album.
It could very well be if you're looking for that part. Okay. Speaking of completist, you're going to chuckle.
Yeah.
I know you're going to chuckle. They Might Be Giants. Here come the ABCs. Yep. I think I showed it. We got a couple of these in the store. This is a kids album from They Might Be Giants. They put this out in, I think it was around 2005 or so. It feels like it's older than that. I'd have to go back and check. But my kids, when they were young, they just loved this. They listened to this all the time. So, you know what, if I'm going to be that They Might Be Giants completist, I'm going to go ahead and get their kids albums too. And I hope they come up with the science, and they also have numbers, but this is on very cool, clear vinyl. So it goes with the other TMBG stuff in here as well. But yeah, you don't expect anything out of this other than this is their take essentially on Sesame Street, singing songs about letters and learning ABCs. So it's cool. I asked my kids, I said, say, I've got a copy of this coming. Which of your collections will this end up in eventually? And they both said, me, mine. So it's like, oh, no, I got to get another one. Yeah. If they both want it, we'll have to go from there. And then finally, this one I've had kind of in the wings for a while, and we got through an older crate, and I'd set this one aside for the personal. This is Taj Mahal, the Natural Blues from Taj Mahal. I forget the year on this. Let me see if I can call that up. 1970. And I think this is a repress, so it's not the original version of that. As far as the original year, I'd have to do some digging back, but this is a 1970 press of that. And it's you're familiar with Taj Mahal. It's blues, but it's not Chicago blues. It's not Bayou blues. Maybe it is Chicago. I'll toss it in because he's the one that originally wrote we caught the Katy, or she caught the Katy rather, and left me a mule to ride, which Jake and Elwood Blues did, and the Blues Brothers. So it's cool to hear that version. But this is just some good. It's not really stripped down blues, but it's good feel good blues.
Sure.
From Taj Mahal.
Cool. Very nice. Not
really a grail, so to speak, but still a fun one to bring into the collection. Yeah. So that's where I set this week, sir. Oddly enough, it's a week without a Pink Floyd thing to add in. Yeah. But
what? Pink Floyd? No way. We've had enough Pink Floyd.
Have we? Are you sure? What would you say? And I did my my upcoming release show yesterday. And we talked about some of the releases, and lo and behold, scheduled for release next week is an album called Punk Floyd. This is not Dark Side of the Moon, so I don't have to worry about that being another Dark Side, but this is coming from Cleopatra Records, and it's actually called Punk Floyd, and it's just a bunch of different punk artists and some big name punk artists as well, lending their talents to covering all sorts of different Pink Floyd stuff on there. So let's see if I can figure out some of the songs and bands. Fear is on here. Okay. Features performances from the likes of Fear, the Vibrators, UK Subs, the Dead Boys, Anti-Nowhere League, the Members, and many more. And some of the songs they cover are some from Dark Side, Eclipse, Time, but then they go into Comfortably Numb. And as I mentioned, Fear, Fear, those guys, Let's Have a War, doing Astronomy Domini on here, Breathe, Pigs on the Wing, Bike. So they go back to some of those older Syd Barrett era ones, and then all the way up through The Wall. One of the things that I did read on this too said that the songs that are on here are not available anywhere else. So, I mean, the recordings have probably been around for a while that these bands have done, but according to the description, this is their first time on vinyl, and they're not available on any other types of compilations.
Well, so many of those bands you named were from the 70s and the early 80s. And I know some of them are still around, but it's like, really? They would put them on. So now, I mean, that makes sense that they were probably from some older recordings and just,
That's the way those tribute albums work. And I don't know, they go to the band and say, hey, we got an extra 20 minutes in the studio. Why don't you do this song? And we'll see if we ever need it.
Well, of course, Johnny Rotten had that T-shirt, "I hate Pink Floyd." So, in the '70s, if you were to cover Pink Floyd, I mean, you just get booed off the stage. You couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, especially with the punk artists, they were kind of the antithesis of what the punk movement was going
Yes, it
toward.
was. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so none of that would be a holy grail, which I think you want to talk about holy grails today. Now that you're getting a little more
You might
settled,
as well, because I think we all have some, or one
we do. Now,
at
for those
least.
unfamiliar with the term, think Indiana Jones, if you will, or anybody else through history, especially seeking out that one item that will change your collection forever. Okay, maybe 2 items. Oh, maybe 5. I don't know. But the
Never ending.
yeah, never ending. But the idea being that out there somewhere is an album that is almost unattainable, something that you would really love to have in your collection, and that you may or may not try to mortgage the mortgage the house to get. But
Yeah.
that's not always the case. It doesn't have to be that huge of a deal, does it? It could be just anything that you really, really want in your collection.
Yeah. That's what I found, especially, after the flood, as I was trying to rebuild, there were certain albums that meant so much to me that I wanted them. I was having a hard time finding them, though, or I'd pop onto Discogs, and suddenly, the prices, they're asking so much money for it. And it's like, well, I don't want to spend that much. But people from around the vinyl community actually helped me. I had some stuff come from England, from out on the East Coast, and just on some of these, to me, personal grails because of the nostalgia.
I think that I'd like to say that we could probably break this into a couple of sections. The grails that, well, we'll cover a couple that have found. You found a couple, I found a couple. Um, Ones that are not necessarily so rare or expensive, but important. But I don't know if we can really toss those into the grails. And then ones that we're still looking for. And in that category, I would even break mine down to saying, yeah, if I run across this, I'll get it, but I'm probably not going to want to drop, hundreds, if not 1,000 or more dollars on it. But if I just happen to find it, that would be cool. So can we count that stuff as grail? I mean, if the idea of a grail is something that you're seeking, something that you're looking for actively, and you won't stop till you find a copy, no matter what the cost, versus if I find it, I find it.
Well, yeah, the grail is a word that's punted around a lot. And you listen to every kind of YouTube broadcast, we're talking grail. Someone's talking grails. I try to keep away from it just because it's so subjective. I mean, a grail is purely subjective on what you want or what you think. And some people will use it for everything and under the sun. They're going more that nostalgia grail. There's others. I think of Dylan from Noble Records that just pulls out stuff that everyone goes, now that's a real grail. And we go, so, but people use it in so many different ways. And some people get kind of upset. They're using the word grail again. Blah, 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 blah. I'll get over it. It is what you want it to be, darn it.
Well, a grail to someone else is not going to be the same as something that I'm looking for. And that actually, again, this is the record store owner side of me. I've seen some holy crap stuff come through that I'm like, this is insane, but I don't want this. Somebody else is going to find an immense amount of joy in this. This is something that someone has been looking for years, and here's one that's landed in my lap. I mean, this happened a couple times with you. I think with regards to the punk collection, especially when that came through here a few years ago.
Exactly, it did, and just stuff wouldn't find it. Back when we started, I mean, collecting. You think of the '80s. If you wanted to find a grail, you had to go to a record show. Generally, Goldmine magazine. You could go in, you could find things and possibly order, but it was very hard unless you just happened to stumble upon it in a record store. There was no way to do it. Now with Discogs, with eBay, we're all connected through the internet. Grail finding isn't as hard as what used to be. The prices are up higher.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, the price is going to be a lot different. You may have more access, but I guess that's the price of access.
It is, and we now understand more what people will spend on it. Okay, it's not sometimes necessarily what it's worth, is what will people spend to get it,
Yep.
and that makes it. Yeah, I mean, what's Discogs all based upon? It's not necessarily the net worth of the album; it's what people are willing to buy it for, which shoots up the price.
And that's the demand. Now, we've talked about that a lot of different times
Yeah,
on our episodes here. I look back to when Eddie Van Halen died, for example. The value of first and early pressing Van Halen records jumped by about $20 or $30 based upon the demand that cycled through the Discogs system. And Discogs, again, tracks the last 10 online sales and kind of averages them in. So if all of a sudden everybody's trading Van Halen albums like they're stock commodities, that's going to greatly affect that average over the course of a week or two. If hundreds of people are buying and selling that and they're paying more for it, then those prices go up and they go up and they go up. And that I think is one of the beauties of the Discogs, but it's also one of the tougher parts of it because you feel like the value of an album is changing. Now, generally speaking, I think some of the really rare stuff, when it's up there and it's there to stay. But some of the more common, as the demand fluctuates and changes, that's going to affect it.
yeah, very true. And so, yeah, it's what you want to spend. And if you really want something and you want to mortgage your house, you can get it. Chances are. So there's a few times we've looked at stuff where there are none for sale. It does happen.
Oh yeah. And that adds to the mystique. It's like, oh man, I really want to find one of these things. I really do need to find one. Before we get into the stuff that we have found and the stuff that we're still looking for, I thought maybe I could kick in a couple of things that I've seen over the past few years here that are most definitely, I feel, in that Grail category, but not something that was important to me. So we passed that on. You may have seen a couple of these, but this one here, I think it really absolutely checks all the boxes for what would be an absolute Grail for someone. And this was several years back. I came across and somebody brought in a Jim Croce album. And this is one called Facets. This is essentially his very, very first album. And what makes this interesting after you research this is you dive in and only 500 copies of this were pressed, again, according to the notes on Discogs. But when this came through the store, I did do that research also. It was a self-release, self-pressed. Croce paid. I think the story I read is he borrowed some money from his in-laws, sold a couple things, including some furniture and the like, to press the 500 copies of this album, which he then sold out of the trunk of his car with his early performances. So this goes back to 1966. And when this came in the store, the person that had it knew, again, that's the other part of Discogs and eBay. People tend to know what they have nowadays more. You're not likely to just stumble across a fantastic deal. So I did a little research and we were fair on this and I brought it in. But the cool factor on this was the fact, this is an album of which there were only 500 pressed. Jim Croce himself probably held on to it and sold it out of the trunk of his car at a gig somewhere in 1966.
Yeah.
And so that made this super cool and super rare. You can see the Discogs prices on this bounce between about $400 upwards of $1,600. The copy I had was just in very unpleasant shape. So, I think we moved it out of the store for about $200 or $300, but somebody was a real big Jim Croce fan, was thrilled that they got a hold of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Something they wouldn't find and you're not going to find. And sometimes it's not about the condition. It's just the fact that I got it.
Now, one of the other, and this is by far the biggest one that's ever come through the store, was in that the famed Sight collection that you're familiar with that we brought in as well. This was a 45. I'd never heard of it, but immediately it kind of struck a little chord. And I thought, there is something interesting about this. The group was Master Dance. They're a Detroit era group from the early 70s. Never released an album, but these guys had appeared on a lot of those the Brown Acid Trip series of albums. And this one came in, and I had not realized it was part of that acid trip, but after doing some research, I thought this thing is absolutely phenomenal. It's a one of a kind. And this was a hard one for me. I gotta be honest with you, because of the Michigan stuff that I like to keep and have in the collection. This was a toughie, but this is also when I was selling on Discogs, I decided to put this up there. And I was actually trying to break into that Discogs top 10 for the month, the most expensive record sold. So I put it way, way up there and was contacted by somebody, would you take this for it? I thought, you know what, faced with either trying to get that Discogs record or moving a 45 for this much money, I did it. So if you look on Discogs, this one sale and one sale only for $1,200 is us. That's our store.
Okay.
We moved this one on. So 6 people have this, 84 people want this. That I think falls into the Grail category. And this is just real hard rock. It's got that Detroit acid sound that was there too. But, the fact that there's somebody out there willing to pay $1,200 for a 7-inch 45 just shows its rarity and shows that Grail capability of what they're looking for.
Wasn't that a good week of sales for you that week?
That was a very good week. And that I forget how long ago. Well, it should say on there, wouldn't it? Last sold June of 22. So that was, it's been a couple of years, and I don't know as if I regret that. I ended up getting the Acid Trip series that has this on there. So I have the music, I've got a digital copy of it still too, because I ingested it to put it up on YouTube. But now I can't help it, Steve. I feel a little, should I have kept this in my Michigan collection? Regret. That was a Grail in my hands, but somebody else I think wanted it more.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of inventory to keep there. Not inventory so much as dollar, but
to sit in there, and that went a long way to paying for that big collection. I mean, not completely, but that helped pay for a good chunk of that collection, which then allows me to do a little bit better on prices in the store for folks, if try to get into that Discogs median. So those were a couple of Grails that were in my grasp, but for reasons of being, I can't keep everything. Where would I put it? We let those go.
Which is why I couldn't own a record store. I'm not a
little more difficult.
Yes, it really would be.
Well, let's kick off with the stuff that I was weak on, or move into next to the stuff that I was a little weaker on. But let's hit you up first here. What Grails have you sought in your life that have come into the collection proper?
Well, some of these, those were some basic ones. For me, when I think of Grail, I can't tell you that I have a list necessarily, but there were a few that were really important. Probably the big. Let's go big. The biggest Grail that I had, and I found this, which is really weird. I mean, of all places, I was out traveling, and there was a cave, and there it was, and I was shocked. I mean, it was just like, there it is. It's
you didn't even have to battle a rabbit, did you?
No, I didn't. Hell yeah. I did not have a holy hand grenade or anything. I liked it so much I put it on top of marble. And and so I put this in the window so all the neighbors see it and they go, damn it, he's got a Holy Grail. It's probably the greatest Grail I've ever had. And everyone just quit looking. I got
it. Should have seen that coming, Steve.
But there's some vinyl ones too. They're not as cool as that.
No, but let's see the vinyl ones.
This year was a big one. The very first Velvet Underground one. Now the banana peels off. It's been through the washing machine or whatever. But the fact is, it is an original. It has the original picture on here that was outlawed, and it's one of my all-time favorite groups. Would I like the whole peel? Yeah, but it's not. It's just the fact it does have the picture on the back where they have an image of a person that tried to sue Warhol and the Velvet Underground for the use of his image. So this was big for me. If I could find a better copy of it, if I could afford it, I would. It's something, I guess it would be a search still to get a full peel.
It would be. And that particular, that we've had this discussion about that one before. That particular album has so many different, essentially, states: peel on, peel off, picture correct in the back, picture the second one. There's so many different variations of that I remember that one. You landed that one, and that was the version to get. And that made the damage to the cover. And I think the final was pretty good on that, but that made the damage to the cover acceptable, is a good way to put that.
Yeah, the vinyl's very good on it. Sounds great. They're, it's very clean. So yes, it made it acceptable. And the fact that I don't see them, especially with that picture on there, it's such a rarity. And to get one in pristine, you'd have to mortgage a house again.
That would be in the quadruple digits, as I recall.
Yeah.
For that one, into the thousands. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of that, my big one, this is one that I did keep, and this is a Michigan one as well. And this is my copy of MacArthur, their self-titled MacArthur album. Michigan band, Saginaw area, actually, also from the early 70s. Some real good, solid rock and roll here. This one, no slouch on Discogs. This goes into the triple-digit area as well. But this has the original paper insert on the back. This also was a self-published one. Sticker on the front, so it is absolutely legit. Now, this one, I would say that it was sort of kind of on my Grail list. I knew it existed. I had the reissue. There was a Spanish reissue from the mid 2000s, early 2000s that I knew it existed. So I had listened to this, and I thought this would be a good fit for the collection. And prior to getting that, I ended up with a MacArthur 2, their second album. This is also that first pressing of that. But I actually got two of these in one collection coming into the store. So I was able to keep one of those. But that really kind of set me once I got that second one. And I had the reissue of the first MacArthur. That really kind of set me off, saying, you know what, I need to find this original one. Yeah. And our friend Mike Plasha down at Electric Crown outside of Flint had one. He actually had, I think, 2 or 3 of them at one point in store. So we got talking after it sat on his shelf for a bit, and I bought and traded some high dollar stuff for this. But this was one that I actually worked to get. It wasn't, hey, this just showed up like the MacArthur 2 did into my collection, but I actually made some effort to get this, and I'm happy I did. Is it a little much to spend on it? Yes, but I think that's what we deal with, I think, isn't it, when we're doing Grails?
I think that second MacArthur 2 is right behind. It's back here.
Yeah, I got it. The second one that came into our store. That's right. You did get that, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I got it. Very nice.
It was odd to see the 2 come in.
Yeah. Multi-item. 9X, Zamrock, and Ricky Iliganga. This is, to me, one of the greatest Zamrock albums ever made, and it's phenomenal sounding, great guitar work. It has been reissued, so you can get one that's not in terrible shape. With it being from Africa, in original press, I mean, it's just beat up. I mean, it's in a special sleeve even, just to try to protect.
The real flimsy outers.
It is very, very flimsy. But the thing is, it is very hard to find. Is it scratched up? Yeah, it is. Does it sound like, been through some sandpaper? Yeah, it's playable, which is always a good thing. But to get you're just not going to find original Zamrock albums that aren't beat to heck. If you are, you're going to be paying thousands. This copy here alone, just in this kind of conditioning, can go for over $500. So,
wow,
very hard. Yeah, very hard to find. Not many people have an original. I was able to get this through Dylan at Noble Records when he was really going after Zamrock, and I've one of the only guys in the VC talking Zamrock all the time. So to get some of these originals was pretty cool.
I think that this kind of comes down to the discussion we had a few weeks back with Dr. Dave Baskin about why people collect. He came in as a psychologist. the desire, I think, to have something that is so unique and say that I have got something that once belonged to Jim Croce. I've got something this 45 is worth 1,000. I've got this MacArthur album that very few were made and they're super duper rare. You know, you've got the Zamrock. I think that plays into that, the psychological aspect. And we've covered this before about why we collect. There's something rewarding to the psyche when we bring these things in.
Exactly. No, it is. And you look at that and you just feel good. You know, I keep that on the outside of the cube. So I look at that because I like my favorite albums like that. A lot of the Grail ones I put on the outside because it's what makes me feel really good.
Cool. Now I've got another one. This is not an old album, and I'm going to have to think back to when this was, but this one was one that I sought out. And I think you ended up getting one of these reissues as well, correct?
Yeah.
The Alexi Murdoch, his Time Without Consequence album, which was this reissue was from 2022. I'd have to go back now. When I'd opened up the store, this was in our distributors. The original pressing of this was in our distributors, and I had passed up on it, and I was like, oh, you know, I don't know why. But then it started growing on me as I listened to this online and digitally here and there. And when I went to go back to get it, that original pressing was still in our distributors, but it was back ordered. And I put in for it, never showed up. And then eventually that version ended up on Discogs in the $300 to $400 range. And I really like this album, but it was one of those ones like, do I really like it $300 to $400 worth? So when these reissues popped up through Newberry Comics, you know, they do some really interesting pressings. I ended up buying this directly from Newberry Comics because it wasn't showing up on our distributors. And now even this one's in that $70 to $80 range value-wise. But this was just an important one to me because I just truly enjoyed his music. And I would count that as a Grail because it's like, well, I should have gotten one when I had the chance. That's one of the rules of record collecting, right?
Yeah.
If you pass it up, that's there. But that's not like that's not a real high-end, high priority Grail for me. It wasn't, but I'm happy I got it. Like a medium Grail, a little one.
A medium Grail. Well, the next one, it's another Zamrock. This is the very first Zamrock album I ever listened to. It was a reissue of the Ngozi Family Day of Judgment. This is the album that got me interested in it. It was a repress. So to again get an original of this, and you could see there's tape across the top. It's been eaten by a line here. You know, it's going to go for big dollars no matter what. It's just the excitement of it. It is one of the very best of the Zamrock albums that was ever put out. Extremely hard rocking, very difficult. I mean, you just don't find originals. So this goes into the collecting aspect. I bought an album that's in terrible shape, but it brings me pleasure to have the original. I do have a reissue that I can listen to really, really enjoy. It's just that I know that most people will never have this. And most people probably don't care if they never have it because of Zamrock. So what?
And that particular one, you said the lion chewed the outer sleeve. They must have spit the vinyl back out then, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, the vinyl's a little, again, sounds like it's been in the desert a little bit, but a little crackly. But yeah, there was still an original. And as a collectors, a lot of us, we really want originals. So many things are reissued now, and you don't have to. And chances are, I know we've talked about this before, sometimes reissues sound better than the originals. But for some, like myself, it's like, God, I really want an OG on this.
And that gets into my next one. I know I've talked about this before, Rush's Snakes and Arrows, and how, again, I passed up for some reason the original 180 gram version of this and ended up buying the 200 gram. But this was on my Grail list of getting that. Even though I had a good playable newer version, I'd wanted that other one. And that brought in some trading. Again, I found there was a guy I know who had a few of them, and that was one that was sealed. And he was the one that gave me a little grief after we did the trading. And I got that the original 180 gram in the collection. Did you open it? Well, yeah. He goes, but you had another one to play. well, yeah, but I wanted to play that one. So, you immediately devalue it. But again, it was an important album for me to get. So now I've got this. Actually got one other unofficial bootleg play copy of this as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It goes back into how many copies of a specific one do we need?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get into my next one. Or do you have another one that you want to show here?
I have one more. I found this at Radio Wasteland one day.
Oh my.
Yeah, the Misfits. Now,
Yep.
I've always wanted a Misfits album, but I never see it. And here's an original. It has the proper coloring on there. And yeah, there it was. Jim got this in. And I thought, well, not the cheapest thing in the world, but why not?
What about Grails that, I don't know. I'd have to think long and hard about this next one. I'm going to go back to Rush on this. This is Rush's first album released in 1974. I have got a good solid reissue of this. And I do also, this is the one that came in the box set with their, I think 35th or 40th anniversary box a while ago. And I've got a good US pressing from the late 70s. But there exists out there the original Canadian Moon label pressing of this, which is also in that $1,000 to $1,500, upwards of $2,000 range.
Wow.
So, I've got a good play copy. I've got a good US original copy, but not the original Canadian copy. I would have to think long and hard about that. As big of a fan as I am, I think I'd have difficulty justifying that large of a purchase unless one just kind of happened to fall into my lap, with a collection or something like that. But the likelihood of that happening, I think, is tremendously zilch. And I don't think it would ever happen. Stranger things have, but I just don't think the likelihood is there. And that might be one that I would draw the line on, saying I don't think I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. It could be that Creator record. Someone, well, I found these and I don't want them. Can I get something for them? And then you see it in there. Yeah, sure.
Problem is that I'd still be this is worth a little bit. I'd be that guy. Saying, oh man, that's worth nothing. I'm sorry. I'll take it off your hands. In fact, you should pay me.
I'm willing to help you out on this.
I don't think I could do that, but I don't know. That would be one that I think I'd have a tremendous moral dilemma getting to see. Yeah. So what about you? Is there one that fits that side too, that you would have a difficult time justifying?
No, nothing. Well, I could say that about most every album I buy, especially from you. I have a hard time justifying it at times on buying it. Here was one. This thing goes for, after I lost so many great first pressings, and I've been trying to get album jackets and stuff, and you just can't find them. So I'm having to buy these originals again that are now skyrocketed out. But what I'm looking for. But to get the original first press is going to be difficult. But you're helping. You got like a second press, and this is from Black Flag, Damaged.
Yep.
And so it is an original, but now to try to find that so much more, and you had was a second or third press. It's not the same cover, but still an older one. It's better than nothing. But I would love to get It's just, I don't know if I can afford to, spend that much, because it does go for crazy amounts of money now.
It does. And that's amongst another batch that has gone through my fingers here. We had that, a Minor Threat. I've got another Minor Threat that I'm working on here at the store, but we had that original first press of the Minor Threat with the black background on it and everything. But that stuff happens. That I guess I'm at a little bit of an advantage when it comes to being a record store owner, that I get to see these types of things come through a little more often than the collector, even serious or casual collector, might see at another store or at a record show and the like. So I see, and I have seen in some of the collections that we brought in, some just in stellar stuff come through that gets very tempting. So,
Oh, when you had that Minor Threat, I was
oh
like,
yeah,
oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, but I couldn't justify it. I mean, and you had a good price on it, but it was still to that point where I I can't justify really bringing that in and staying married. You
yeah.
got to,
There you go.
yeah.
Now I've got one more, and this came in. I'm going to go back to that big site collection that we talked about, and this one ended up being a keeper for me simply because I think selling it for what it was worth would have been a difficult go. And this is a promotional Rolling Stones, just a compilation of Rolling Stones stuff, a special radio promotion album in a limited edition, not for sale. So it told me right there, I guess I can't sell this. But this,
That's right.
it's even difficult to take out because this was an old radio station copy. It is loaded with tape all around the edges. It is just beat up on the edge and opened up.
Is
And
it
the vinyl
Zamrock?
is
Is that a
no,
Zamrock album?
close. And the vinyl is not perfect. It's on London Records, but it's got its share of scratches and a lot of noise. But this album, I'm reading the back here, it says, has been prepared for radio stations only by the Rolling Stones as a program aid. It was felt that most stations have in their library both volumes of the Rolling Stones hits LPs, NPS 1 and NPS 3, and one more LP assembled especially for radio stations could be of great help in programming. So 14 Rolling Stones selection spans the complete recorded history of the Stones, beginning with one of their earliest recordings, Route 66, and ending with a brand new selection, which will be included in the next Rolling Stones LP. The song is Love in Vain. So to be included on Let It Bleed. So this, I think just the unique nature of this was one of the grails that I didn't know existed, but once I did, I wanted it. I needed to have this one in my collection. It values upwards. I mean, in very good condition, the value on that on Discogs is in that 4-digit range. It's one of the more valuable pieces in my collection, except for the fact that it's beat to hell.
Yeah.
So I took all of that into consideration, and this was obviously in a radio station, and just decided, I'm just going to keep this because A, I'm a radio promo guy. I like to collect that stuff.
Mhm.
And B, this is a unique one that I think would make a good addition to the collection.
Sure.
And it did.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
So that's a fun one.
when it's talking covers, I was just thinking, I have an original Big Star. I need a cover for that. I got an original Suicide. I need a copy of a cover of that. It's just, I have these reissues, but it doesn't have the same feel. Yeah, it's just weird. And try to explain that to a non-record collector. Well, it's the same, isn't it? No, it's not. I feel better with that one. It feels warm to the touch.
It's out of place, and that goes with this too. It's like I don't think I'd ever find another cover of this, not to mention, a vinyl of this without paying thousands.
Exactly.
So it's a good marriage of beat up vinyl and beat up cover. It'll just sit in the collection, and I'll call it out once in a while and go,
like Sam,
cool.
right?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Who would go for that? Now, I have seen a couple times. I take that back. Once in my career here at the store, I have seen probably one of the most coveted Holy Grails that are out there, being the Beatles Butcher cover.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of people bring in the Yesterday and Today and say, "Is this one? Is this the one?" I've read that this thing's worth $10,000, and I'll give it its due diligence and go through and call up the sites, and I think I'm getting pretty good at IDing them. And 9 times out of 10, when somebody brings that in, I said, "Nope, sorry, it doesn't have this. The telltale sign is this. It's not pasted on." But there was one several years back where a guy brought one in, and he says, "I think this is a Butcher cover. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's a Butcher cover." Luckily, it wasn't busy that day because I spent probably 45 minutes going over that album and the cover with a magnifying glass and a fine-tooth comb and searching it out until I absolutely confirmed for the gentleman that, yes, this is indeed a Butcher cover. And the conversation while I was going through all of that work to ID it, he let on to me that he picked it up at an auction for about $80.
Okay.
It's like, well, there's mistake number one, dude. But you're telling me what you paid for it, because after I've positively ID'd it for him, he says, well, do you want it?
For
I was
free?
like,
Okay.
well, let's see. I put in that professional work to ID this for you, but he wanted $1,200 for it, and it was in nice shape. But at the same time, it's like, I can't. You probably shouldn't have told me what you paid for it.
Mhm.
That's a business 101 right there. But even then, I mean, personally speaking, I don't know as if I'd want a butcher cover unless I just happened across it organically in a big collection,
Yeah.
that I paid for. To buy one outright for that amount of money, I'm not as big of a Beatles fan that would shell that out. Now could I and should I have gotten that for the store? Probably, but that amount, it would have been a tough one to move. And it
Yeah.
would have
Yeah.
really, really had to have a Beatles person. And I've got a couple Beatles people now, but even then, I think that would be at the upper range of their rational
Sure.
thinking. So,
Maybe a butcher cover will come out in a 3-inch format. They'll just redo
ooh, we'll go with that and see what happens, or a hologram or something along
it.
those. Now they
Yeah.
do make butcher cover bootlegs. I've got one of those, but
Yeah.
it's not the same,
Yeah.
Steve.
But it's like you think Led Zeppelin 2, the Ludwig one.
Yeah.
To
Yep.
many people, it's a grail. Trying to find that out there and look at a little easier to find, obviously, than a butcher cover. But it is so regarded as this is the one. And
Just because of that pressing with the LW, or not the
so,
LW, the
yeah,
RL, the
yeah.
Robert Ludwig.
So
I've,
again,
I've
consider
got,
a grail.
I've got one over there.
Of course you do. Yes.
And I didn't really realize it. I mean, it's been my Led Zeppelin 2 for years. And then all of a sudden I noticed the value of it on Discogs just went
Yeah.
through the roof. And I thought,
Oh,
that is a
well, how about
Ludwig.
that?
How about that?
Yeah.
So I'll just hold on to this one.
Yeah. You have anything you're looking for? I mean, a grail that you
Um,
have that you really, one that you
there,
would buy.
there is one that I would go for, but I don't know as if I'd pay the $1,000. It's by a group called Index. It's another Detroit area band. I think it was like Gross Point or Gross Heel or something like that. Late 60s, early 70s psych. And I've only read about it, never seen one. The reissues of that from the mid 70s to late 70s are in the $700 to $800 range on their own. And an original copy, I fantasize, oh, someday I'll just happen to stop into a garage sale down in the Detroit area somewhere, and there'll be a copy of Index sitting there, and we'll pick that up. But that would be one that I would think long and hard about for the Michigan collection. And there's a
Rick,
couple of other things. I'm sorry.
I say record collector fantasies just don't make
Yeah,
Playboy.
they don't, especially nowadays because of Discogs and eBay. People are saying, "Oh, this is a record." Granted, it's Burt Kampfer, but I think it's worth $20 in my
Yeah,
garage sale. We'll put that
yeah,
on there. But yeah, Index would be one. I think if I'll try to find it and put that the sound up if it is on Spotify, so you can take a listen to that. But that would be one that would give me pause for concern if I came across one at a decent price, even in the $500 to $600 range. For that would make me think long and hard.
sure.
What
Yeah.
about you? Is there something out there that would make you stop and go, damn it, why is this in front of me?
Yeah, I'm so impulse that I still love a modern lovers first edition. Thought I had one, wasn't. So that one would be there's a Ben Folds. He had
Yeah.
songs for Silverman. It came out on vinyl. I would really love to get. I love that one, but the vinyl goes for so much now. But if I saw that, I would really think about maybe I need to pick that one up.
Make sure
But
you ID it first, unlike that Modern Lovers and the Cramps that you grabbed at that
yeah,
record
yeah,
show.
yeah, no kidding. Spend some time, and but it's just like, oh, okay, here we go. The adrenaline rush.
We'll go from there.
Yeah.
Well, folks, what are some of your grails? What are the things that you're looking for that you would stop at nothing to add to your collection? Let us know. Drop a comment down below on YouTube or hit our Facebook page up, and let us know what you think. As always, make sure you check out that Facebook page. And we are still, I'm usually behind, Steve. I don't know if you noticed when we put the episodes up, it's usually the next morning I get the Spotify playlist up that we talk about, that has some of the stuff we're talking about on here. And some of these with the Grails, they might be difficult to find on Spotify as well. So we'll see what happens. The Zamrock especially, when you toss those on there, I'm like, why? I can't find this on Spotify. But we'll see what we've got going there. All right, I think that will do it for this week on Two Guys Talking About Records, a Vinyl Community Podcast. As we mentioned, we do appreciate you folks watching and or listening each and every week. Make sure you check out that Facebook page, check out the YouTube channel, check out Steve's YouTube channel, because it's about to get a lot more interesting now that you have opened up the record room.
It will be a couple of weeks. Hopefully it'll be said and done to do a room tour. Should be great.
Looking forward to it. So until next week, my name's Jim, and I am a record store owner who dabbles in the collection side, unfortunately, a little too much.
And I'm Steve, a record collector that has a bigger room now.
Congrats. Have a good one, Steve. Thanks.
Yep, you too, Jim. Bye.